I'm 25 years old, female. I have been with my husband for 4 years and married for 2 years. We've had more than a handful of issues over our time together and after today. I think I might be done. My only problem is that I'm currently unemployed with no vehicle and in a state without any close friends, and it wouldn't be as simple as just leaving him. To give a background on our relationship and what brought me to this point, our main issues would be division of labor. Since the beginning, it's been a struggle to keep things routine. Spending quality time with each other, he likes to game and will often play for more than 5 hours every day. I'm not exaggerating, I just want to have this clear for myself and anyone who cares to read or give input. We both struggle with mental health issues that we're both working on personally, sex ending when he's done and rarely ever having foreplay or me not getting to finish. He crashed my BMW and bought a junk car off a friend, promising to fix it up and get it insured and registered, has yet to do so after months, while constantly fixing other people's vehicles, drinks every day, and becomes very disrespectful towards me specifically, even in front of people he works for. In fact, tonight, we were attending a work party for him that he got stumbling drunk at. So did almost everyone else, and gave me a backhand to my stomach in front of his team leader, who was our ride home when I was trying to help him. We have separated for a time as well and decided that we wanted to work things out. One of my conditions to making us work is attending marriage counseling, but we have yet to attend a meeting. Now, I'm not perfect either. Like I said, we both struggle with mental health. I'm more so. I've had a few self-attempts, one day ending in a hospital. Stay the other lead to our short separation. I feel like I'm rambling, and to get to the point of this post is that when we finally got home tonight, he was very angry with me, and I was and am completely sober, so I was just trying to get him to comfortable and to bed, but while I was doing so, he was still upset, and then said that I was too good for him. And I'm not sure, but something about how he said it made me feel really weird. So I did the thing we're not supposed to do, and looked through his phone once. I got him in bed. I scrolled through everything for a few hours, and I, of course, found porn, saved nude pics and Facebook messages, asking to meet up with an OF girl who ultimately rejected him, and pretty degrading, nasty comments about me to his friends. Now, we don't have a problem with either of us watching porn, but I do draw the line at asking to meet up. That is cheating 100% in my book. So what I want to do is ignore it, although I did manage to send pictures and screenshots of everything to myself and wait until I can get a job and maybe he finally fixes the car so I can leave the house BC. Like I said, it's been months without a vehicle for me, and he does have a car, but it's manual and I have no clue how to drive it, and he's also repeatedly told me he would never let me drive it even if I learned. I can also go to college through him, and I really want to just BC. It might give me an edge in the workforce, as I want to transition out of retail and honestly a helpful routine to focus on. I just can't decide if it would be so wrong of me to get my life back together and on track, then leave him, or if I can really make us work and try one more time for us. I'm just so lost and I really need advice. So am I wrong if I used my husband to get ahead in life, then left him? I'm 32 years old, female. I have been dating my boyfriend for a year now. At first, everything was amazing. He's funny, kind, and we got along so well. But over time, our intimate life has started to become a real issue. And I don't know what to do anymore. He has some very hardcore fetishes that I just didn't see coming. I tried to be open-minded about it because I really care about him, and I wanted to make him happy. We tried a couple of the things he's into, but honestly, they made me super uncomfortable. Some of it was even physically painful, and it left me feeling kind of shaken. I told him how I felt and that certain things just aren't for me, but he didn't take it well. Now it feels like he's always mad at me. He keeps bringing up the things I won't do. And when I say no, he shuts down or makes comments like, I guess I'll never get to be myself in this relationship. He's stopped being affectionate, and most of the time, he's cold and distant unless we're around other people. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. The worst part is, I've started blaming myself. Like, probably I'm just boring or not adventurous enough, even though I know I've tried my best. But the things he wants are just too much for me, and I can't pretend to be okay with them. I feel so stuck because I love him, but I'm also starting to resent him for making me feel like I'm not enough. I've been thinking about breaking up because I don't see how this can work long term. We're just not compatible in this area, and it's making me miserable. But at the same time, I feel so guilty for even thinking about leaving him over something that's clearly a big part of who he is. So, Am I wrong for wanting to end things because I can't handle his fetishes, even though I know it's something that's really important to him? I'm 47 years old female, almost a year ago. Me and my 18 years old daughter were gifted with a new neighbor just before Christmas. There are 2 duplexes at our address, and we live in the first unit. So when our curtains are open, we see our neighbors coming and going. It's been pretty peaceful, and we've all gotten along just fine in the almost 4 years that we have lived here. Now the new neighbor, we'll call her Vicky, she's about 60 years old. She moved into the other half of our duplex just before Christmas. I remember this specifically, as we had made Christmas puppy chow, a common Midwest sweet treat, and brought her some as a welcome gift. We met her little terrier, who was skittish, but we didn't think too much of this. Vicky was not good communicator. She mumbles, and it is very hard to understand her. But we hope to start on a friendly note. We adore animals. We have 2 dogs and a cat. Feed another neighbor's cat who is always left outside, and we feed the birds. Our previous neighbors had 2 dogs that our dogs loved to interact with through the fence, giving each other kisses and nuzzles. We hoped this dog would be their new bestie. This was quickly proven to be not the case. The first time our dogs met through the fence, her dog reacted to ours by viciously snarling through the fence. Now we thought they'd probably warm up to each other. He may have been intimated and scared in his new home. My dogs are a little bigger than her terrier. Not huge dogs by any means. Our bigger dog is knee height. The backyard woes were enough to deal with, but then we start to see a pattern of this dog running loose in the front courtyard. Once a while is one thing, but this is actually a daily occurrence. She has no control of him, and it is actually pretty comical watch her trying to catch him. At first we tried to be understanding, but it became so frequent that I asked her to please keep him on a leash, as I'm afraid of running him over. He runs right into our parking area and into the street. She mumbled incoherently, but I did make out that she claimed he chews through his leashes. Unfortunately, nothing changed after this exchange. This has continued and escalated. He has come at my daughter and I when we didn't have our dogs with us. My daughter also witnessed him charge another neighbor's elderly mother, who was so startled she picked up a stick to scare him off. We walk our dogs daily, and if he happens to be outside, he will run at them aggressively. Next, we bought a chain leash and put it in a little gift bag, with treats and a note, asking her to please be careful with him for his safety and ours. We continued to have the aggression through the fence, and it was almost impossible to simply let our dogs out, as she leaves her back door open, allowing him to run in and out when he chooses. We never leave our dogs out for extended periods, just long enough to relieve themselves between walks. I have to point out I have never seen my dogs start these quarrels. They run out into the yard to do their business. Then the little terror runs up and initiates the brawl. Now this is when it really got tense. About 2 weeks ago, our dogs were having one of their skirmishes through the fence. I was trying to pull my dogs back in. Of course, they are reacting to him, jumping and barking as dogs will do. When a guest of hers, while watching this little terror and not intervening, said quite loudly back into the house, "You should call animal control." I responded, though I knew she was not speaking to me. "Oh, you want me to call animal control?" "I will call animal control!" I was livid. My daughter got very upset about the entire situation, worrying they would take or blame our dogs. I was really trying to be courteous to Vicky up until this point. Truth be told, my daughter was reining in my inner Karen. But this was the last straw. Once my daughter calmed down and realized we are definitely not in the wrong here, we made a plan to start recording each and every one of these incidents. We literally have dozens of recordings of this little monster running off leash. In some of these, she is nowhere to be seen. In almost every one of them, our dogs calmly watch their antics, sometimes barking back when he barks and jumps at our window. There is also a video of him coming at us. We are trying to take them for a walk. Again, off-leash. This is the only time she apologized for his bad behavior. Today, he was off-leash once again, and my daughter was recording. This time, she realized she was being recorded. She grumbled something about it through the window, but it was incomprehensible. She then knocked on the door to confront my daughter about recording her. My daughter confirmed she was indeed recording and explained why. Vicky mumbled and made some excuses about how hard her life is because she is caring for her disabled sister and elderly mother, and asked my daughter not to call animal control. She never said she was going to, by the way. My daughter reminded her we have simply asked for her to keep her dog on a leash or in a kennel to avoid him running around unleashed. We did not and do not want to call animal control. We are recording her and her dog to defend our dogs. We didn't even consider doing this until the threat was made was to call animal control on our dogs. Of course, she didn't make the threat, but she also did not negate it or apologize for it. We are often outside, so she has had ample opportunity to address it without even needing to come to our door. Hi, this just happened very recently, and I know that what I said was rude. But am I really in the wrong here? So I'm 16 years old female. I got into an argument with my classmate's mom since apparently I was hating on him. Let's call him G, for not choosing him as my partner for the upcoming prom. Just a little context. I think it was on Wednesday last week when we finalized the partners for the prom next year because we would begin practicing the dance performance. And since I was not openly saying to everyone that I already had my partner, my boyfriend, the teacher who helped with partnering up the students assumed I was still free and asked me if I was willing to become G's partner, and I obviously refused because I had one already. Then he didn't say a thing about it, and I assumed that the teacher would probably just ask someone from the lower grade. The girls in our class weren't enough to pair with all the boys, so we would be taking some girls from the lower level to fill in the spot. And the next day, my advisor just suddenly told me that a parent was looking for me and told me to go to the guidance room. And I did when the event happened with G's mom. She saw me and began complaining about how dare I refused to go to prom with her son when I should be honored to be paired with him, and I was just shocked and really confused since it wasn't like I rudely refused. G and even said yesterday, I meant like the day when they were choosing partners, that I couldn't since I was with someone, and here is the part where I probably end up being rude. Since I straight up told her that even if I didn't have a partner, I wouldn't choose her son and she should take a look at her son before blaming me. G was the kind of boy that was egoistic and really noisy. Plus, I really didn't like him since every time we would be doing dance activities in the past, he would just run away to play with his friends and barely gave any effort to dance. And I couldn't have that since prom was a graded performance. Everyone in the room became silent, and the teacher somewhat scolded me for disrespecting the mom, but soon let me off since she knew that other than my words, I didn't do anything wrong and just made me apologize, then let me leave since she would be handling the rest. But am I the wrong one? I'm 16 years old female. I have 2 younger siblings, Mia 9 years old and Max 7 years old. Our parents recently went on a quick meeting over the next state, but due to bad weather, they got stuck due to severe weather. It's been a few days, and while they've been checking in, I've had to take over everything at home, including looking after my siblings. I don't mind helping out, but it's been exhausting managing schoolwork, chores, and making sure they're not setting the house on fire. Few days ago, I decided to go all out and cook a proper meal for dinner. I made a spinach and cheese lasagna from scratch, which took me hours between prepping, baking, and cleaning up. I was really proud of it, and it smelled amazing and looked straight out of a food magazine. However, when I served it, Mia poked at it like it was toxic waste, and Max flat out said, "This is gross. I want nuggets." We didn't have any nuggets or something to make for that matter. I was frustrated but stayed calm and told them, "This is dinner. If you don't want it, that's fine, but I'm not making anything else." They refused to eat and just went back to watching TV. I figured they'd eventually get hungry and eat, but when I checked later, they still hadn't eaten. I still tried to push them, but eventually gave up because I had a pile of homework and was already drained. Fast forward to the next few days when my mom called. She asked if everything was okay, and I mentioned the lasagna incident. She got upset and said something like, "They have to eat something, and that kids don't really like those things." I explained that I didn't have the time or energy to whip up a second meal when I'm juggling everything else. She got even angrier, saying they haven't eaten much in days because they're too picky to eat what I've made. I get it, they're kids, and I'm not a professional chef, but I feel like I've already done my part by cooking, cleaning, and keeping them alive. I didn't sign up to be their personal short-order cook, and due to the weather conditions, ordering in wasn't an option. Am I really the wrong one for drawing the line and not making them something else when they refuse to eat? I'm 28 years old female. I have been a member of a large volunteer organization for several years. I'm one of the longest-standing members. I have spent hundreds of hours on various aspects of it. I've held small leadership positions in almost every area, and I have a large amount of experience, being the president of another organization as well. When I first joined, things were not doing well, so I, with others, worked our asses off to improve that, and we did. In fact, we did so well with improving the atmosphere that we had a massive amount of incoming members, who quickly became very close with each other, something we specifically encouraged, and have absolutely no idea how bad things used to be, or how much behind-the-scenes work it takes to maintain the way things are now. I ran for president in the most recent election. I ran against 5 other candidates. 4 of us had years of experience and had been preparing our campaign for months. One person, let's call them Alex, was extremely new. They had 0 experience at all, decided to run at the last minute, and had a very large friend group with other new members. Alex was barely allowed to run due to how new they were, but made the cut by a handful of days. You can see where this is going. It was extremely close between me and Alex, and I lost by 1 vote. The rest of the elected officials were all new members, of the same friend group, also without experience. Then it was discovered that 9-10 votes, specifically the votes of other people in leadership positions who worked closely with me, were not counted. This was not intentional or malicious, simply a computer error. Apparently, every single one of them voted for me. I technically won. They tried to get the election results overturned because of it, but higher-ups would not allow it, because they feared it would look like favoritism. At the end of the day, I was told to keep quiet and not let anyone know about this. That brings me to my current situation. Because nobody on the new executive team has any experience, I started facing a lot of pressure to take on a lower leadership position solely to guide them and ensure our hard work doesn't go to hell. I absolutely refused. In fact, I've decided to drop all leadership roles and do absolutely nothing this year. This has led to multiple people telling me that I don't truly care about the organization, that I'll be responsible if it falls apart, etc. I feel like it's a slap in the face to expect me to do what a president does, without the title to show it. Am I wrong for dropping all leadership positions and letting the new team do whatever the hell they want to do? 2 weeks ago, I got invited to a baby shower from a friend who I haven't seen in years. She moved to another state, but had apparently moved back, and now is having her baby shower here. I was so excited since I haven't seen her in so long. She started a group chat with all the mutuals she invited. She did disclose that this was going to be a quick and small one since she had just found out. She was pregnant. When she was 35 weeks with an induction, scheduled on her 37th week, we all started volunteering to be responsible for different things for the baby shower. I said I'll cook Filipino food and help pay for some of the decor. I sent money to the friend who was in charge of decorating. I asked Mom-to-be how many people are invited besides the ladies in the group chat. She told me 15. There's 10 of us in there, including me. So I thought I'll cook for 50 people to be on the safe side, just in case she invited a few more. I started shopping for ingredients for the lumpia, pancit, chicken adobo, and rice, and a grazing table. I started prepping and coordinating with the decor lady. We figured where we wanted the food and grazing table, and told the MTB she approved. Now, the day before her baby shower, I spent the whole day cooking. I took off the day. I only work part-time since I'm the primary caretaker for my baby, while my husband works. Mind you, I had to arrange for my mother-in-law to watch my baby while I did all the cooking, and for me to go to the baby shower. I didn't want to bring my baby since I would be busy with the catering. It was by luck she was off those days. Then, the night before the baby shower, she DM'd me on Instagram that she had to make some hard decisions and had to uninvite me, but still want me to drop off the food. I told her I understand and respect her decision, but I will not be dropping off the food. She asked me why, and I told her it wouldn't make any sense for me to drive 75 minutes to drop off food to an event I'm no longer invited to. That the only reason I volunteered to do what I said was because I was invited. She asked me how she was going to find someone to cater on such a short notice, that it was feed up and hateful. A few friends sided with her while most sided with me. I want to know from a stranger's perspective if I'm the a-hole. FYI, I don't know the full story about her pregnancy. She told me that she went to an OB checkup because her period was unusually heavy and long. They found out she was 35 weeks pregnant and was having complications, which is why they scheduled an induction. I've already sent the SS of the DMs to the 10 mutuals. 3 out of the 10 sided with her, which prompted me to post this. because maybe I'm missing something. I was being told that I should have been an actual friend, that I should have been the bigger person, that she was going through a rough time with her pregnancy. MTB never disclosed to me why she had to make a hard decision, and why I was uninvited, which, the whole point of us 10 volunteering was to take off the burden off her shoulders. Our mutual friend, who was the decor lady, was the first one to reach out to me about me not being there since she and I coordinated where the food was going to be at. She's also the one that told me that MTB was telling her, and other people, that I got my feelings hurt, which is why I didn't want to come. She didn't tell them what hurt my feelings, or how or when. I was too worn out from prepping and cooking to fire back. I took the peaceful route. I didn't ask for the money I spent on the decoration, my gift, I guess. I donated all the food to the women's and children's shelter. I figured they're more deserving. I cook Filipino food all the time, plus I got a freezer stash of lumpia. My wife and I live a relatively quiet life. My sister has 2 kids, one of which being my 15-years-old niece, whom we'll call Jay, as her younger brother. I know very well that living with my sister sucks, so I have sympathy for my niece, who gets into arguments with her mom. Now, Jay isn't exactly an angel either, the whole family knows that. Well, this year, Jay asked me personally if she could stay with me in my apartment for the summer break, because she and her mom got into a particularly nasty argument, and she wanted help and guidance. I hesitantly agreed and said she could stay for 2 months. Unfortunately, there are a lot of issues with Jay. She is a pathological liar. Half of everything she says is untrue, and she will lie to your face even if you know the truth. I have a cabinet full of alcohol that we save for family gatherings and date nights. We don't drink otherwise. I hid the alcohol from Jay. She found it, and within 3 days, drank everything. When I looked into the hiding place, all the bottles were empty. I placed security cameras in the house because of her, and caught her on tape stealing money from my wallet. She also broke a few of our things out of anger. And when we asked her about it, she said it was an accident, but it was on camera. I tried multiple times to spend time with her and connect with her, but she never showed me any respect or seriousness. Everything is a joke, and the straw that broke the camel's back is when I confronted her about the alcohol and money she stole. She not only didn't apologize, but lied, saying that my wife did all those things, and is trying to frame her because she hates her. Even after telling her I have footage of her doing it, she still kept saying she didn't do it and I'm conspiring against her. I lost my marbles. It has only been 5 weeks, but I was done. I called my sister and told her Jay is coming in the morning. Jay begged me not to send her back. I asked her, why not stay with your aunt or your father? And to which she said neither will let her stay with them because they are conspiring against her too. Surprise, she had stolen from them and lied to them too, so no one wants anything to do with her. I didn't care, and drove her back home to her mom, and informed my sister of what Jay has done. She was furious with Jay, so I left immediately. I will never allow them into my house again. I feel a bit bad because, again, her mom is always angry, and her family wants nothing to do with her. It also probably didn't help I told her mom, but still, these are the consequences of her own actions. What do you think? I'm 37 years old female. I left my husband earlier, this year after discovering he was cheating on me with someone from his workplace. We were together for 12 years, married for 8, and I truly thought we were solid. Finding out he was sneaking around, lying to me for months, was the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever experienced. I found out over Christmas last year. When I decided to leave, I asked my friends for one simple favor. Please don't maintain a relationship with him. I didn't think it was unreasonable. He betrayed me, and I needed my friends to have my back as I tried to pick up the pieces of my life. Most of them understood, but one of my closest friends, let's call her Sarah, completely ignored my request. Here's the thing. Sarah and I have been best friends for over 15 years, but she's always had a weird dynamic when it came to my relationships. She used to make comments about how she was jealous that I always ended up with the good-looking guys, and would sometimes joke that she had a connection with my ex even before he and I got together. I used to laugh it off even though it made me feel belittled, thinking she didn't mean anything by it, but now I'm not sure. After the split, I started noticing Sarah acting strangely. She'd casually drop things into conversations that only my ex would know, like details about his new job or what he's been up to lately. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off and said she read it on his social media. Eventually, A mutual friend told me Sarah had been texting him regularly and even meeting for coffee. When I confronted her, she admitted it but tried to downplay it, saying, "We were friends long before you and him got together." She said, "I'm not going to throw away my connection with him just because you two didn't work out." What hurt even more was when she added, "I don't get why you're so upset. He's still a great guy, and you need to stop being so controlling." She said I was being too emotional about the divorce and accused me of forcing her to pick sides. Then she told me to stop always being the victim. Here's what really hurts. I don't know what she's been telling him about me. I confided in Sarah about everything. How hard it's been to start over, how anxious I feel about my finances, and how much I've struggled with therapy. The thought that she might have shared those deeply personal things with the man who destroyed me makes me sick. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, and I stopped speaking to her. Now she's texting me, saying she misses our friendship and thinks I'm being unreasonable for cutting her off. So am I wrong for walking away from Sarah? Was I too harsh, or did she cross a major line here? So I'm 16 years old female, and I used to sell snacks at school like chips, candy, soda, juices, and gum, because my school charges way too much for snacks in our vending machine. It costs $3 for chips, $4 for candy and drinks for $3.25, and usually they are knock-off version of name-brand snacks. I knew people didn't like them, so I took the risk and sold snacks at school. My prices were cheaper than the school's, and people liked buy from me more because I had snacks they really like. And this freshman girl named Bethany reported me because I wouldn't give her free snacks. She came up to me and demanded snacks with a smug look. I refused, and what assumed was her friends laugh at her and embarrassing her. In retaliation, she reported me. I got 2 weeks suspension for selling food at school. When my suspension was over, my usual customers came to buy snacks, and I told them I'm not selling snacks anymore because Bethany reported me. Word got around, and now people are shunning her. Her friends keep sending me hateful DM, saying I ruined her life and now people won't talk to her. They even said I'm the reason Bethany. Boyfriend left her and now she's depressed. I do kind of feel bad for her being shunned. Some of my friends say I'm not wrong, but some say I am. What do you think? I'm a female and I was ghosted by my boyfriend of 10 years, almost 7 years ago. My ex-boyfriend and I met when I was 24. He was 28. I was starting my second university degree. He was working full-time and had graduated from university 6 years prior, but wasn't happy with his job. He also lived at home and had a codependent relationship with his mother. This is not speculation, or me trying to find an answer as to why this all happened. Yes, this is fact. She was a homemaker. He was one of 6 kids. His dad was a businessman, and his dad was too busy working to be there physically and emotionally for his family. So they were well off, but the mother tried to make up for where the husband was lacking in other area with the children. A bit of the context? My ex-boyfriend was the youngest child. All of his other siblings had left home in their very early 20s across the country. Most of them moved away for university, and all of them never moved back. My ex was the only one that stayed. He drove one of the family cars. His mom did his laundry. He lived in the basement of their large house. 2 years into our relationship, he decided he was going to leave his stable, full-time job, and open an organic food business. I will save you all the boring details, but he ended up going into business with his mom, who said she was bored and had always wanted to open a business, but she never had the opportunity. But with her son interested as well, she could finally do it. They borrowed the money from the husband, $200,000 to be exact. Over the years, this business evolved from an organic baby food business to an organic cookie shop, to an organic sandwich shop, then organic cheese, to the point where they were renting a commercial kitchen for a lot of money each month to make their product-y, and they never ever broke even, let alone made a profit. In fact, they were hemorrhaging money. But because the dad had money, they could just keep taking more money from him to fund these failed businesses and pivot their product whenever they wanted, and no one stopped them to say, hey, maybe this isn't working out and you should pack it all in. During this time, I completed my second university degree, started working full-time, and I moved into my own apartment. At the beginning, I actually cherished living on my own. My ex-boyfriend would come over, but would never stay the night because he said, well, I get up early and my mom expects me to drive into work with her. One time he was going to spend the night and she called him late at night saying that his dad's favorite shampoo was on sale at Costco, so he needed to be there now to grab it. I actually heard this conversation, so it wasn't an excuse that he made up. This was the kind of thing I was up against all the time. So he ended up leaving without spending the night. Because he said, well, the Costco is close to my house. So there is no point in me driving there and then driving back here and then getting up at 5 a.m. to drive back out west to grab my mom and drive us to the commercial kitchen for work. Tomorrow morning. I had lived about 25 minutes west of him by highway then. After a while, I started, of course, saying to him, when are you going to move in? When are you going to propose? When will we get married? At this point, it was about 6 years into our relationship. So then he started giving me $300 a month, a tiny portion of the $1,500 a month in rent I was paying at the time to basically show his interest, and that he was going to move in. He just had to wait for the right time. When the business was making money, then Christmas and birthday cards, etc. from his friends started showing up at my apartment, addressed to him. Twice he asked to borrow the apartment, while I was working a night shift to have some friends over. I quickly realized that he was telling them he lived there because he was embarrassed, because they all were independent and living on their own. And he wasn't. He was about 37 years old at the time. I told him that was weird, and he would just shrug and say, it's just easier for them to think that because I'm going to be moving in soon anyway. After all, I do contribute to the rent. Then he was talking about how his mom told him that if he moved out, then the car he was using would no longer be his, because he wasn't making a paycheck at his business. He couldn't afford his own car so right now, let alone rent and bills 50-50, so it was just best to live at home. I offered to pay most of the bills for the apartment. Stupid, I know, but I was doing it anyway, so I figured, well, at least we'd be living together. I don't recommend this, however, and thankfully, he didn't take me up on it. Anyway, I can come up with a million more excuses that he used with me, but ultimately entering our 9th year, just as I was going to be turning 34, and he was 38. Almost 39, I was at my wit's end. I basically laid it all out that him and his mom were very codependent and all of his siblings had gotten out years ago, but he was at home, and yes, his mom needed help to run the house, but his dad lived at home. He worked from home. His office was upstairs in the home. She could ask him. It's not like she would be alone in this big house if he moved out. He agreed that living at home was unconventional at his age, but his business and his finances restricted him, and he said he was hoping things would turn around soon. Eventually, in that 9th year, I gave an ultimatum. People say don't do that because it always backfires, but in this case, it saved me. I should have left years ago, but I was in school. And then he was starting his business and pivoting the business multiple times. And then I enjoyed living on my own once. I worked full-time and moved out of my parents' house, and then he showed what I thought was good faith and started giving me some money per month for rent. So I thought it was just a matter of time until we moved in together and got engaged. Plus, I had already invested so many years into the relationship, and I was approaching my mid-30s, so the thought of starting over again scared me. Sound familiar? Yep, the relationship was one big red flag. So in the summer, I gave the ultimatum and said by January you need to at least move in. He brought it up with his mother. And then she immediately scheduled her knee replacement, surgery for 2 months later, and said that she would need help at home. But he kept insisting that in January he would be moving in. I started making some space in the apartment for his stuff. I have a car and was able to walk to work, so I said that he could use that car to get to and from work, so he wouldn't have to use the car his mom was letting him drive. You can see where this is going. At the end of November, I went on vacation with my mom for a week. He used that opportunity to tell me via text that he would not be moving in January, and that he needed to stay home with his mom. She was doing very well after the surgery, and boasted to everyone that all the nurses and physio who came to her house said how miraculously she was healing. Yet my ex-boyfriend said she needed him at home because she wasn't doing well post-op. Then he said, out of good faith, he needed to stay at home until he eventually paid his dad back all the money him and his mom had borrowed for the business. This was over $300,000. And 8 years into the business, they were still not making a profit each month. In fact, never had they made a profit in any month ever, and that he had to pay back every cent before he could in good conscience move out and start funding his own life. So obviously that money was never going to get paid back at this rate, and yet, again, another excuse why we couldn't move in together. I tried calling him from the vacation, and he would just text me back that he was at work and couldn't talk. I did say some hurtful things in text messages back, but I was very hurt, and I guess deep down I knew that this was going to happen. And the coward waited until I was thousands of miles away to break the news via text. But wait, the best is yet to come. So I returned from vacation at the beginning of December and called him that night. And he answered and said we could meet up the next day to discuss everything, and that he would call me in the morning and we could figure out when he would come over. The next day, the call never came. I called him multiple times. He didn't answer. I texted him. He didn't answer. This went on for a week. I know, many people at this point would say, "You did this for a week. Why didn't you drive to his house?" Well, his business social media page was active and he ran that page. So I knew that he wasn't sick or dead or whatever. So at the time, I thought to myself, well, he knows where I am. He can call me. I'm not going to show up at his door and have his mom answer and stand. They're demanding I speak to him. I still had a scrap of dignity left. At this point, he had just turned 39 years old and I was almost 34. And honestly, I assumed that maybe he was just avoiding confrontation because he knew that I wasn't happy with the fact that he wasn't moving in and that there were still no plans to move this relationship forward and that he just needed time to regroup and likely come up with his next excuse. Christmas and New Year's came and went. Nothing from him. Starting just before Christmas, I had emailed, texted, called, and never got a response. I never heard from him again. I wanted to show up at his door, believe me, and demand answers. Demand closure. Yet in the silence, I got all the closure and answers I needed. So yes, this man I had been dating for 10 years ghosted me. It has been 7 years since this happened, and I never heard from him again. Out of curiosity, 2 years after we broke up, I visited his business's social media page, which, unsurprisingly, has turned into an organic mushroom business now. And lo and behold, he is married and running the business with his wife and his mom. The three of them are posing together in the pinned post at the top of the page, smiling with their arms around each other. I guess that's what he wanted all along, a third wheel. And that was never going to be me. And about a year or two later, someone ran into one of his former friends, and apparently his wife had moved into his parents' basement with him. I bet they are still there now, waiting to pay off that $300,000 so they can start their real life together. 5 months after this fiasco, I met my now husband. We became engaged after a year and a half of dating. We got married a year after that, honeymooned a year after that. And 11 months ago, we had our son. I am 40 years old. I wasted so many years on this man who said all the right things when his back was against the wall, but could never follow through. Yes, he ghosted me, but it ended up being exactly what I needed. Because I like to say that I would have left him, but would I have? Sure, I would like to say eventually, but even with him saying that he wasn't going to move in January, I was still willing to talk with him. Revise the timeline, that sort of thing. My new life is amazing. I love my son dearly, but I wish I could give him a sibling. Yes, I could become pregnant now or next year. But I want to enjoy my son now as he is still an infant. Ideally, I would want 3 years or so in between kids. But I don't have that time. So I could just get pregnant again. But we have decided to be one and done. That is one of the results of having a child later in life. But at the same time, if my ex and I didn't break up when we did, I never would have met my husband. He too had been in a relationship that had ended the same year as mine did. So I truly feel that this was meant to be. But even if I didn't meet my husband, looking back on that other relationship, I am so glad it ended. I still never got an answer. But I guess in the 10 years I did have the answer, but it was simply between the lines. So anything he could have said to me wouldn't have changed the outcome. I had to find closure myself, and I am a stronger woman for it. I wouldn't trade my life now for anything in the world. Please, if someone is extending timelines regarding commitment, saying we need better finances or better jobs or a house or have to do X, Y, Z before doing ABC, read between the lines. Don't settle. Don't give excuses. With my husband, it was so easy. I didn't have to set timelines, give a list of expectations, give ultimatums. Everything just happened naturally.